So the Jays wiped the floor with Minnesota's the Jays farm team minus Edwin Encarnacion wiped the floor with Minnesota's farm team minus Justin Morneau and Joe Mauer over the weekend. 3 straight wins.
Right.
But there are other things that are real that are worth talking about with the Jays. Here to discuss, Mike Wilner. Hello, Mike.
Hello, boys. Well, first of all, you talk about the Los Angeles Kiss, and I think that's just another piece of a tradition of great sports names with wonderful inspirations. You remember the Toronto Phantoms?
What was the inspiration behind the Phantoms?
What was the Phantoms?
I just remember Jamie Campbell calling games.
You know what the Phantoms were named after?
No.
Pantyhose Company.
Really?
They owned a piece of the team, and they wanted to name them after their product.
Learn something new every day, Timmy. I had no idea.
To notice the football pants were slightly tighter and more see-through than others.
I thought it was a haunted section of East York that they were named after.
No, not at all.
Okay.
That explains a lot about that franchise's existence, too.
Great.
Isn't it, though?
Named after pantyhose.
Sounded like a solid business plan to me.
I personally like the Macon Whoopee. I think that, to me,
It's an all-timer.
An excellent name to make.
That owns the podium. It's first, second, and third.
Yeah.
There is no second and third.
Can you beat it?
There's some good ones, but that's outstanding, and that's top of the class for sure.
UC
But
Santa
remember, you're
Cruz
talking-
Banana Slugs.
You're talking to someone who once worked for the Hardware City Rock Cats.
Ooh,
That's pretty good, too.
That's pretty good.
All right, Mike. Well, let's deal with the latest issue to come across here with the Jays, in that they're looking at playing a couple of exhibition games at the Big O in Montreal in the spring. Do tell.
I think that's an outstanding deal. I just found out about it too 15 minutes ago, like you guys, when Shai Davidi tweeted it, and he's got Shai gets scoops is the thing about Shai, and there is no downside to this. I don't think, as long as the building remains upright. I think it's a wonderful idea, and do Blue Jays fans really get excited if they like to play their last 2 games of the spring, and they like to hit the road and get out of Florida. But, I mean, is it exciting if you play those last 2 games in, like, Memphis and Louisville or in Philadelphia like they did last year, or in Montreal? I think it's great. Maybe next year, this is going to be next year, maybe the year after, you play a couple in Vancouver. And why not? Why not make it, keep on building the brand across the country and keep showing them Blue Jays baseball.
Yeah, and this, you give a little back to those Expo fans who bought a few seats a couple times over the last few years in trying to show Major League Baseball that there's still a market in Montreal.
Yeah, there's no downside to this at all.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
So Ryan Goins is the next great superstar!
What? Huh? Really?
Throw it up. Who's going to beat him out? The great Meiser Asturas?
Hey, listen,
Who's
Mike,
going to beat him out for that?
please don't mention what he hit in Buffalo this year.
Not important.
Not important at all.
That's the past.
Don't tell people that. He is the next great superstar.
First impressions are a wonderful thing, aren't they?
They are.
That's how I got married.
Do you remember the last young Blue Jay who made a first impression as good as Ryan Goins?
Brett Laurie?
No.
Oh.
His impression was way good.
Yeah, it was.
Is there someone after him?
Yeah, who else are you thinking?
I'm thinking of a young man named Eric Thames. But I guess he was a couple of months before Laurie, so you're right on Laurie. But, Eric Thames.
Yes, Eric Thames.
And which is not to say that Ryan Goins over the course of the next 2 seasons is going to get hugely oversold for a player much better than he is and get designated for assignment twice and wind up in 3 different organizations trying to make a major league team. But it just kind of it's a cautionary tale about first impressions and people like Edwin Encarnacion and Colby Rasmus and their first impressions. Ryan Goins has been with this team for 15 games, and they happen to be 10-5 since he came over. But what we're seeing offensively anyway is not the real Ryan Goins. But the thing is, he's made all the plays in the field.
Yeah.
And he's made some plays that he had no business making. He's a shortstop playing second and has looked so good turning the double play as a second baseman, which is that's the biggest adjustment moving from the left side of the infield to the right side, and he's done it utterly seamlessly. And honestly, I'm more inclined to believe a first impression of defense than I am of offense. And look, over the course of his minor league career, 5 years, hit 273, he's got an on base of about 330. You can't translate that and say that that's what he'll do in the big leagues. But those are Meister Astura's numbers, and that's what Meister Astura's was supposed to be for the Blue Jays this year. Didn't work out. They've still got him for another couple of years. But if he can hit for a decent average, if Goins can hit 260 and have a 320 on base, which is close to the major league average, and play second base the way he's been playing second base, there is no problem with having him be the second baseman next year hitting night.
I listen, I completely agree with you. And considering most of the narrative this year, I mean, there have been numerous issues, obviously, with this Jays team. But one of them has been fundamental baseball, the little things, defense. To see a kid just come up and immediately exhibit the signs that he knows what that is. I completely agree with you, Mike. And I don't think Meister Astura should scare him. If the Jays do not do anything bigger this offseason from a second base perspective, if I'm Ryan Goins, I'm thinking I'm coming to camp next year, all things being equal, and I really, really like my chances.
Well, if the next 19 games go as well as the first 15 did, I think if there's no move to be made, and if it's Astura's and Goins going in next year like Astura's and Bonifacio went in this year, then I would think that Ryan Goins is easily the front runner for the everyday job at second base. You might see Astura's play against some lefties or, something like that, because the Blue Jays are tied to him. They owe him $3 million a year for the next couple of seasons. But I think they're going to go out and try to improve, but I think this impression that they've got from this kid has shown them that, shoot for the moon. And if you can't bring in a proven, not superstar, but star-level performer at second base, then don't bother looking through the rest of the chaff that's left over because you've got this guy.
It's interesting because Mike Wilner on the line with Tim and Sid. It's interesting because my partner in crime oftentimes describes playing out the string as meaningless, but we have a guy like Ryan Goins who is putting a best foot forward. Is a guy like Esmil Rogers doing the same thing, Mikey?
I don't know, man. Esmil's got a good shot at being the American League Player of the Week, too, by the way. 14 innings of 4-hit shutout and a couple of wins. But they came against Arizona and Minnesota. And right. You know how we all pick a player of the game, Jerry and Jack and I, after every game. Sunday afternoon, Esmil had the best start of his life, went the deepest into a game that he's ever gone, and 3-hit shutout, 7 2/3 innings, and I gave Goins the player of the game because he had 2 hits, scored the winning run, and made 2 sensational defensive plays. Any other time, you're giving it to that starting pitcher, but the fact that it was against the Twins kind of worked into it for me. You see John Gibbons taking him out with a 2-run lead with 2 out and nobody on in the 8th inning, and he hadn't even hit 100 pitches yet. But I think that shows something as well. I like what I've seen from Esmil Rogers, but he's had some huge blow-up games where he's just been awful. And I think the ideal spot for him in 2014 is to kind of compete with Todd Redmond and hopefully Jay Happ for that Carlos Villanueva swingman role.
Mike, I agree. There's been peaks and valleys with Rogers. Definitely. There were games where that sinker wasn't sinking and it was way high.
there were peaks
were peaks and valleys. But I mean, listen, we see Kyle Drabek come back over the weekend.
Yep.
He's not close. You don't know what Drew Hutchinson's going to give you.
I disagree completely.
He didn't record an out.
Yeah.
How close is he to being a member, a valuable member of a 5-man rotation? I just think budgeting that is dangerous, Mike.
Camp in the rotation next year. I think if you look at that outing that he faced 4 hitters. You're right, he didn't get any of them out. First time in the major league since last June. And we know that Kyle isn't the most even keel sort of guy, but he's working on that. And I think that was to be expected. Maybe not that was to be expected. But you look at what he did in his rehab over the course of 43 minor league innings this year, coming back from Tommy John surgery. He walked 6 guys. And that just explodes to me. And I think that, another 6 months under his belt, a full spring training, I think.
But you're not budgeting him into the starting rotation, right?
I'm giving him a shot at a job and a good one next year.
Ooh.
I'm still trying to improve the rotation, obviously, beyond Dickey and Burley. But
you can't honestly count on a guy, right? Like
you absolutely can't count on him.
Right.
I mean, he's 25 years old is one of the huge reasons, and he's coming off of surgery and all that stuff.
Right.
But he'll be, when the season opens, he'll be 21 months post-surgery, and usually guys get back to being their real selves at 18 months. I am looking for very big things from Kyle Drabek next season.
I hope you're right, Mike. I don't know if I'm as confident, but I hope you're right.
Michael Papp writes in and says, Kissimmee Astros. Now, were they the Ocala Astros? Were they ever the Kissimmee or Kissimmee Astros?
I think they may have been for a year the Kissimmee Astros, which is just hilarious.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But I think, they were the Osceola County or something, or they were Cubs for a while. But that's a pretty good name. Yeah, not as good as the Macon Whoopie.
The competition is shut down after Macon.
No, that's a podium.
No.
What about that? How's that? Is that good?
One more time, sorry.
Montgomery Biscuits.
That's lame. Why? That's not funny. But biscuits. Biscuits aren't funny. Biscuits haven't been funny for 10 years.
What do you mean? Biscuits are serious business. You get gravy on those biscuits?
You got professional athletes representing the biscuit. I think that's right. Pretty funny.
Sid's just upset because he'd like to eat the mascot. That's all.
That's not the point, though.
The mascot is a boat of white gravy.
Oh, yeah.
Go on. All right, we got to go, Mike. Enjoy a rare day off for you. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thank you, boys.